on what size we are as we're growing up, we can be viewed as men before that time. We can be viewed as a threat before we even know it. And so for me, when I begin to think about this ideal that I didn't want to listen to what it was, I want to throw something out. I was reading something one day, and they said that it takes some time for something in your short-term memory to make it into your long-term memory, right? And sometimes it takes something to jolt you in. I love the way that Todd said it was the snap of that strap that reminded him that something that was in his short-term memory needed to move into his long-term memory. But the idea of it is that because if we don't, what ends up happening is that if we don't deal with it in our short-term memory, we'll right over the top of it. And then we'll lose it. So it's almost as if we're spinning in the short-term memory moment where some of this stuff has to find a way to move into our long-term memory. And if it doesn't, then we end up losing. We end up losing opportunities that could have been ours, but they weren't because, simply put, we were focusing so much on our right now, we didn't know what that thing down the road could even potentially be that they had the ability to see that we couldn't. What you think, Willie?
Well, I think you're exactly right. And I think that the elders, by passing on their experiences to us, it was their hope that we didn't have to learn the hard way, because them putting us on punishment or whipping our butt or something was done out of love. And they didn't want to see us fall victim to the police out there beating up people and or maybe even getting shot by them. Had to be introduced to the court system for life, or just be away from your family for long lengths of time, or even get hurt from being in the wrong situation at the wrong time. They had the foresight to see that could come and was checking us appropriately, not known to our butts, or at the time, but they was trying to save us some heartache, and it was done out of love.
Yeah. What you got, Pat? I'm sorry, Todd. Go ahead. What you got, Todd?
Yeah, I just think, man, I remember the brothers growing up, the old heads would talk, and they used to say, man, what's the worst nightmare that a black man would have? And everybody would say, going to jail for something he didn't do. And so, like Willie said, they was trying to keep us away from them snares and them traps, right, that would lead us right to the penitentiary, or would lead us to an early grave, right? Because they saw the potential in us. They saw that which rubbed them the wrong way, that put us at risk as the gift that was going to help save our life once it matured. See, that's the thing, right? We all had fruits of the spirit at a young age. They just wasn't developed or mature enough, right? But them old heads saw that. They were like, that's the gift that God gave him. I got to put some bumpers, like, bumper bowler. I got to put some bumpers in the gutter so that they'll bounce off, right?
Yeah. But there was also this idea that they understood that they were nurturing and protecting that gift. And I think the most important thing, and this is really in response to what Patrick said, is they saw the gift. And so in a time when we have way too many young men and boys of color losing their lives, is because so many people don't see the gift, right? And that's really a reflection on them and not a reflection on the individuals that are meeting their untimely death, because just because they look different from you don't mean that they're a threat to you, right? And so we really got to make sure that we use this platform to really recalibrate and change the trajectory of the community that we love so dearly, and making sure that instead of us, throwing in the towel on young people who could grow up to be like the four of us, either one of us, right? Instead of the community throwing in a towel on them, the community will see the gift, nurture it, protect it, and recognize that I might share some information with them and they may not demonstrate that they understand it right now. They still have the potential to do it at a later time in their lives.
This is true. I remember my dad told this story about when he was in church, he could have swore he heard God tell him that he was going to be a preacher. It scared my father so bad, he ran out of the because they all went to the sanctified church. They ran out of the sanctified church and they couldn't find my father for hours. And he went and hid up a tree and he said he told God he wasn't coming down. And God told him he wasn't going to be a preacher. That he was going to stay up in that tree, right? And after hours began to get hours and moments began to get moments, all of a sudden a sense of dread came over my family. And what I was told was the reason that it was a sense of dread is that in those days when they found you in a tree, it wasn't one you breathed afterwards from.
There you go.
So one of the things that I want to be mindful of, the hindsight that they brought up when they came up north, was with this idea that when people came up missing, they weren't found again. When they came up missing, they were dead. So we need to be mindful of that, and we need to pay that attention as we going forward. Folks, that's a great segue into our next movement. We're leaving hindsight, and we're going to move into insight. You're listening to The Front Porch. We'll be right back with you.
If I could do one thing, I'd make sure that there were more textbooks in schools. I'm a teacher. I've seen the need. But my girlfriend here likes to say,
don't just talk about it, be about it.
And we're about the 2020 census.
Because when everyone gets counted on the census, it helps inform public funding in our neighborhood for the next 10 years.
So don't just talk about it.
Be about it.
Complete the census online, by phone, or by mail. Shape your future. Start here at 2020census.gov.
And we're back, folks, with another edition of The Front Porch, brought to you by the North Flint Neighborhood Action Council, Community Foundation of Greater Flint, and Census 2020. Please take your census. Your community needs those dollars. And we're having this conversation around this proverb that Sylvester Mom brought to his attention and really shared and could have spared his life. And she simply told him, boy, the more that I teach you, the dumber I get. And that's where we're wrestling at right now. So, Willie, I'm going to start this kickoff with you right now. Tell me a little bit about how this plays a role in our right now. What insights could we take away from this community proverb from Sylvester's mom?
Well, I've been on this earth for 53 years, about to be 54 next week. And in all that time, while y'all was talking, I was thinking about some stuff that my son would tell me, and I look at him and say, all these years I've been here, you don't think I learned nothing? You know, and the youth have their own way of dealing and interacting with people, and come to think of it, so did I. Because I remember my dad telling me the same thing, and you know, I might have been put off at the moment because he was the type that if you got in trouble, it wasn't necessarily the punishment or the whipping or anything. It was that long conversation, you know, you was gonna get that lecture, and he would always put in time to see where my mind was at, see how I was doing, and yeah, but we don't always appreciate the experiences of our elders. Yes, they went through very much the same things that we did, but it might have been a little bit different because of technology or whatever. And today that would be definitely true with Facebook, YouTube and all the other stuff they got out there. But it still has the same outcomes because it still affects the person. And like when I be going through stuff, it's like I hear the little conscience on my shoulder, and it sounds like my dad talking to me. Boy, didn't I tell you?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And you know, that's how life goes. You know, you don't necessarily think about everything that you pulling in and make part of yourself. But it actually gets in there because you hear it so much.
Yeah, I think. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to pass it to you, Todd. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think about that recent song by Lil Nas X, right? Old Town Road, and that little punchline in there say, "Can't nobody tell me nothing," right?
Yep.
That's my son's song. Can't nobody tell him nothing, right? Because he know everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of what Willie was alluding to, I think Sylvester mom, at least I know my mom said that, she would be meaning that I think I know everything. So the more I teach you, basically, the smarter you get, and then the dumber I get, right? So you know everything, right? That's the kind of spin I'm taking on this. I remember my mom said to me one time, we were having this conversation, she just looked at me and leaned over. I was driving too, right? She leaned over, looked at me and said, "If you could whoop me, you would, wouldn't you?"
Mm.
And there is no answer to that, right? Because you can't say no, right? Or you can't say yeah, right? You just got to sit there and be quiet, right?
Yeah.
But implied to that is that you think you done got so grown that you know everything. So you know everything implies that I know less than you. So it's like Sylvester Mom was saying, like, the more I teach you, right, wisdom, right, the more you deny it, the more you saying to me, in theory, the dumber I'm getting.
Yeah, exactly.